Chapter 10. Checkmate. The boardroom was a void of steel and glass, 30 floors above the city. It was Ethan's territory, a place of corporate executions and billion-dollar deals, but I had made it my own. I had chosen the time, midnight, a poetic echo of the New Year's Eve when this all began. I had arranged for the single bottle of brutally expensive whiskey and 3 glasses to be placed in the center of the massive black granite table, and I had summoned them. I was there first, seated not between them, but at the head of the table. I wore a severe black pantsuit, my fiery hair pulled back into a sleek, tight ponytail. I was not Ariel, the seductress, or Scarlet, the captive. I was a general surveying the battlefield before the final, decisive clash. Leo arrived first, punctual to the minute. He stepped out of the private elevator with his signature dazzling smile, looking every bit the golden playboy, but his blue eyes darted around the room, accessing. He saw me, and his smile widened, a glint of predatory triumph in his gaze. He thought this was his victory lap, a clandestine meeting to collect his prize. "Ariel, my love," he began, his voice smooth as silk. "I knew you were resourceful, but this is—" The elevator doors hissed open again, cutting him off. Ethan stood there, a thundercloud in a perfectly tailored suit. He didn't look at Leo. His dark, furious eyes locked onto me, burning with the rage of a man whose possession had dared to act on her own. He saw Leo, and his gaze turned murderous. "What is this, Scarlet?" he snarled, his voice a low growl that vibrated through the room. "What is he doing here?" I let the silence hang for a moment, thick with their mutual hatred. I let them feel the weight of their own animosity, the sheer destructive force of their rivalry. Then I smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was sharp, cold, and utterly devoid of fear. "Please, sit," I said, my voice calm and clear, "both of you. We have a great deal to discuss." Leo's confident smirk wavered. Ethan's rage was momentarily checked by a flicker of confusion. They were the 2 most powerful men in the city, and a woman they both thought they owned had just commanded them like unruly schoolboys. Slowly, hesitantly, they took the seats flanking me on either side of the long table, the tension between them a palpable crackling force. "Let's start at the beginning, shall we?" I began, my gaze landing on Leo. "On New Year's Eve, you hired me to seduce a shy virgin billionaire. Your goal was to find a weakness, a pressure point, a piece of blackmail to use against your primary rival. Your mistake, Leo, wasn't the plan itself. It was thinking the tool didn't have a mind of its own." Leo's face lost its charming facade, replaced by a cold, calculating stillness. I turned my head, my eyes meeting Ethan's burning gaze. "And you? Your mistake was even bigger. You knew about the entire setup from the beginning, yet you let it play out. You could have simply refused the contract. Instead, you used it as an excuse to claim me, to lock me away in your beautiful cage." My voice dropped, becoming intimately quiet. "You saw Leo's pawn, and you thought you could make her yours, punish her for a betrayal she was forced into. But you weren't punishing me for meeting with him, were you, Ethan? You were punishing her. You were punishing Victoria." His name hung in the air like a ghost. Ethan flinched, a barely perceptible tightening of his jaw, but it was a direct hit. The mask of the ruthless CO cracked, revealing the wounded man beneath. For the first time, Leo looked at Ethan with something other than pure animosity, a flicker of genuine curiosity. "You both saw me as a contract, a prize, a pawn," I continued, my voice gaining strength. "So I decided to play the part. I became the most dedicated pawn I could be." I looked at Leo again. "The information about Zurich? That little morsel I fed your operative. That wasn't me being your spy, Leo. That was me passing a loyalty test for my new keeper. A test he set, and a test I passed with flying colors." I swiveled back to Ethan, who was staring at me, his rage now mingled with a dawning, horrified respect. "And Ethan, your frantic, multi-million-dollar chase after a ghost? Call KOG, the mysterious German cuckoo in the nest." I gave a small, humorless laugh. "A complete fabrication. I invented them. I read the name in a market brief and fed it to you, wrapped in a pretty bow of feigned innocence." The color drained from Ethan's face. I needed to send a message to Leo, I explained, my voice as sharp as a scalpel. A message that his asset was still in play, but no longer on his leash. And you, my dear paranoid captor, with all your resources and your desperate need to find threats in every shadow, were the most reliable messenger I could possibly imagine. You alerted him for me. You spent weeks chasing your own tail, all while signaling to your greatest enemy that something was wrong with his plan. The silence in the room was absolute. I had laid all their cards on the table, then laid my own hand down on top of theirs, a royal flush they never even saw me holding. So here we are, I said, leaning forward, my hands flat on the cool granite. The current reality is this. You can continue this pathetic war. You can bleed your companies, your fortunes, and your sanity dry trying to destroy one another. You will use every dirty trick, every piece of leverage, until one of you is ruined and the other is king of an empire of ashes. And in the end, you'll both lose. Because your obsession with each other is your greatest weakness, and your enemies, your real enemies, are circling. I poured a measure of whiskey into each of the 3 glasses. Or, I said, pushing a glass toward each of them, you can accept the new reality, my reality. Leo raised an eyebrow, intrigued despite himself. And what reality is that? The war ends tonight, I declared. Thompson Industries and Sterling Enterprises will no longer be at war. You will form a new overarching joint venture, a strategic alliance that will consolidate your power and utterly dominate the market. You will stop trying to destroy each other and start building something together. Ethan scoffed, a raw, bitter sound. And why would we ever do that? What to stop him from stabbing me in the back? Or you, him? Leo added smoothly. Me, I said simply. I tapped the 3rd glass, the one in front of me. I will be the 3rd partner. I will sit on the board of this new entity. I will hold the deciding vote, the tie-breaking share. I will be the balance of power. You don't have to trust each other because you will both have to trust and answer to me. They stared at me as if I had just sprouted wings. The sheer audacity of it left them speechless. You think this is a joke? Ethan finally growled. Do I look like I'm joking? I met his gaze without flinching. You, Ethan, are a brilliant tactician, but you are blinded by your past and your possessiveness. You, Leo, are a master of social engineering, but you value the game more than the prize. I see you both for exactly who you are. I know your strengths, your secrets, and the wounds you hide from the world. Who better to stand between you? I picked up my glass, the amber liquid glowing in the low light. This is my offer, your endless destructive war, or a new world order with me at the center. You can walk out of this room and continue on your path to ruin, or you can pick up your glass and toast to a new partnership. I held my glass aloft, my gaze unwavering. I was no longer a contract. I was no longer a prize. I was no longer their pawn. I had burned the old board and built a new one from the ashes. Leo, after a long, assessing silence, smiled. It was a genuine smile this time, filled with a ruthless, impressed admiration. He reached out and took his glass. Ethan watched him, his face a storm of conflicting emotions, rage, disbelief, possessiveness, and a grudging respect. He looked at me, at the woman who had seen the ghost of Victoria in his eyes, the woman who had outplayed him at his own game. He looked at the future I was offering, one where he didn't have to destroy his rival and one where he didn't have to lose me. Slowly, his hand closed around his glass. I smiled, a real triumphant smile this time. The game is over, I said, my voice resonating with absolute finality. Or rather, it's just beginning. And now, gentlemen, we play by my rules.